You know, we're called consumers in the context of capitalist production, but I don't think we often think about what that means to be a consumer. Because when one really looks at the inherent qualities of the word, of the concept, and the kind of characteristics embedded in consumer culture, I think it would be a great opportunity to, I'll put it like this, wake people up to the realization of their responsibility in the artist and audience dialogue. Because it is a dialogue, you know. And I think consumer culture doesn't allow us to see it as a dialogue. It doesn't allow us to realize that what artists do when they put their strength and their inspiration into building works of art to offer them to us, they're having a conversation to us. And I think being consumers makes us think that the artist is some kind of active employee who works on behalf of satisfying our tastes. And I think this is the relationship most people have to the art that they love. They're consumers. And the consumer mindset is to assume that your favorite musicians, your favorite artists, kind of work for you. And because they work for you, it is important that what they do panders to where you are in life. And I think it is this consumer mindset that is at the root of a lot of backlash when artists choose to deviate from their regular course of style. It's this that is at the root of why people, especially around social media culture, mostly seem to have negative opinions, and to such an extent that it's created a whole phenomenon of hot take culture, where when an album comes out, the first thing people want to do is already rate it, and they call that a critique, when it is absolutely impossible to get a deep sense of what a project is about in a couple of hours. And this is very important to mention, because we should not fall for this. Because if we fall for this, then we're severing this very, very important dialogue. We are the ones ruining the spirit of what art is, more than the artists themselves, who already have the pressure of trying to balance between market relatability and their own inspiration, and at being in an economy which doesn't always lend itself to sustainability. Now they have to also worry about the palates of an audience to an extent where they feel they have to follow that as their charge. I think we have an opportunity, especially in this high-paced age where the internet is becoming more and more of an opportunity to intimately interact with each other. We have an opportunity to change the culture of how we consume our art and realize that artists are not here to please us. They are here to tell their story and become a window into the experience of being alive. And if we can understand that, then the charge is up to us to discover art that speaks to us, not to charge artists to try and give us what we want. This issue comes to the foreground recently with Andre 3000, who shocked the world by basically giving us a surprise album. Something that nobody had anticipated, especially since historically Andre had spoken about not really being in a place to produce or put out any music in terms of the context of public digestion. So when New Blue Sun was announced, I personally, as an Andre 3000 fan, was excited. Now, the world knows Andre Benjamin as a rapper. So to find out a couple of days after he had announced that what he was actually going to release was an instrumental album led by woodwind instruments that he has been trending lately, being spotted in different places, playing the flute. So now we have Andre 3000 kind of resurfacing as the modern day Pied Piper and literally blowing himself where, you know, getting moved in the direction of the wind. So I want to talk about the actual album, but I can't talk about the album if I don't talk about the context that it was released in. Hence this consumer culture angle. Firstly, hip-hop heads, quote-unquote, were angered is an understatement, but disappointed, to say the least, that this was not going to be a rap album. And therefore, you found a lot of dialogue online of people literally charging Andre 3000 with the responsibility to give them raps. It was spawning memes of Andre taunting us at the last minute, all to not deliver what we quote-unquote want. And I think, again, that tone disrespects the artist. If we love the artists that we claim to love, we also have to understand that a huge part of that is allowing them to grow in a direction where they might lose us, to take themselves into places they are called to answer. And I think what this has reminded me of is there is a lot of narrow listenership amongst rap heads, and by that I mean people who like classical rap hardly ever really listen to anything other than that. If they do, it is music that still filters around the range of rap. And I think as a result, a lot of these give us bars comments come from a place where I feel people need to do a lot of introspection and reflection on themselves as to whether or not being so musically narrow does them any benefit whatsoever. Whether or not the culture around rap has become a cult of the voice, where we are so enamored by rappers that we forget the backdrop of what they rap to. Beats, instrumentals, people who play, people who design the sound scope for an MC to tell whatever story. These are the people who are essential to even hearing the rap in the first place. And I think rap has become so built around the rapper that it is in a state where it is murdering its own longevity. Because if the musical qualities that accompany the MC aren't valued as the MC themselves, then we might as well just cut the music and listen to people talk. Because if we can't appreciate the value of instrumental albums and thus producers, beat makers, then you can't really call yourself a hip-hop head. Hip-hop began through innovators of instrumentals. The breakbeats. The DJ is the foundation of hip-hop. not the rapper. And I know this must be shocking for people who've caught hip-hop at the tail end of its success, where all you see are rappers, to the extent where you feel rap alone is hip-hop, and you run with ideas such as hip-hop music, where the idea of the culture in its facets is something most people don't really mean when they say hip-hop. How hip-hop is just a synonym for rap. And you see this at the highest levels, where in celebrating the culture, it feels like it's really rappers who are being celebrated. We've spoken about how to appreciate music in an episode we did previously called Art and Appreciation, link in the description. And it's important to point back to that moment because it was an opportunity to have this dialogue with the audience. And here we are again with the André 3000 moment, being reminded of how we are still in a place where we don't appreciate the artists. We actually take them for granted because capitalism has given us this assumption that they need us more than we need them. When the truth is, we would be nowhere if it wasn't for the creative capacity of the arts. So I feel like it is important for us to honor artists in their moment, even as they branch out into places that are far from us. So now, the actual album, New Blue Sun, it's basically an ambient project. It has touches of, if anybody's familiar with Brian Eno, moments that remind me a lot of that kind of soft core, meditative, easy listening music. It's really André being assisted by a large soundscape of soothing tones that allow his flute playing to kind of meander into anywhere it can go. And this is music that's made for the background. And this is what I love about it, is that André 3000 is introducing people to a concept that has existed but has never really been in the foreground of pop culture. People think every song is made to be played very loudly and appreciated publicly. There isn't an emphasis on music that's made to be more intimate, more private, music that's made to blend in to the rest of your life, to blend into the walls, to blend into the furniture, to blend into your feet. We often look at music as something that's there to stand out, to literally push us into a certain emotional landscape. But there is music that is there to simply sit on wherever moment you are in, kind of like a blanket, to move over you and allow you to just be with it. Now, there have been corny memes circulating with this kind of yoga-centric incense lighting culture being associated with that, but yet commercially it goes there. But I want to really emphasize that this is not music that is made for that. This is not music that's made for anything. And I think that is the point. It is music purely for music's sake. André walked into the studio and gave himself the opportunity to learn out loud. He's learning the instrument in front of us. He's allowing the vulnerability of notes which sometimes sound off kilter to deliberately be that, and to fall with an instrumental piece that allows them to not feel like an ouch moment. And I think the lessons in this are literally embodied in what the project represents. It's vulnerable music made to simply allow oneself to go where they may, without the pressure of expectation, of external expectation. So it feels to me that with New Blue Sun, even in the title, André is saying every day is an opportunity to face your pain. Hence it is a new blue sun. It lends itself to the idea of the blues through its soothing diversions that move in a place that can be both somber but also embraceful of that vulnerability. So the new blue sun is the new opportunity to take in and to embrace the pain that is there to transform you. And I think if we've listened to André speak about his life and his art over the years, he shared the sentiment of the anxiety that comes with fame and how that changes the relationship to making art, and the feeling a lot of artists get where they desire the freedom to just make the art they want outside of the context of market expectations. Because the irony is there is a market for everything, but it works more when an artist has already built some kind of noticeable and well-known characterization amongst the audience. So, are people appreciating this project because it's André 3000 or because it's actually something special? I think it is more the former than the latter. There have been ambient artists for practically 3 to 4 decades. Has an ambient album ever made this much currency in terms of pop culture? No. Because it's never been released by a rap celebrity. So I think here again, a lot of people are now being introduced to a new world because of something familiar. And that's the kind of latent beauty of the art and the artists. Is that by moving on this journey with artists and treating it as a dialogue, it's literally like meeting a new person. You discover things you would have not readily sought out for yourself. And for a lot of people, this dimension of musicality is something that they have not explored, let alone really ingested. Simply because music like this often filters into the background of what is known as alternative or underground, and pop culture emphasizes music that it can use to sell escapism and consumer products. Therefore, can you sell anything with New Blue Sun? Sure. You can sell the idea of inner peace. You can sell the idea of relaxation. They'll probably play this in spas. They'll play this anywhere where the idea is meditative. And that's the stitch, is that the hyper-reality of relaxation isn't relaxation in and of itself. And André understands that he's straddling a line where he's easily commodifiable. And something that comes out of his heart is actively now being turned into a gimmick. And is this an opportunity for people to cash in on the idea of inner peace as a brand? Sure it is. That's what capitalism does. But I think what's more important to understand is what's behind that. The artist's intention and the connection that we can possibly have with them. So ultimately for me, this project is difficult to critique or review because it really is a self-indulgent moment that discards itself from any opinions. Even this opinion that I give is merely for the purposes of contextualizing what it means. And what this project means is capitalism can sell anything if the figure behind it is already bankable. It also means that inner peace in itself can be a brand. It also means that the dialogue between artist and audience is something that we really need to reconsider so we do not destroy the integrity of artists to explore their own path. all embedded in this moment. So the importance of how it feels sonically is really a personal choice. And I know that might be weird coming from somebody who regularly reviews projects in their effectiveness to the audience. But there truly are projects that transcend that. And this one does. I liked a couple of songs on it. You might not like a single one. I've heard people really judge it based on how terrible of a flute player André is, and I'm like, that's not the point. He didn't want to come across as masterful. He didn't want to come across as good. He just wanted to come across. And whatever you hear is your responsibility to sit with. And I like that. I like an artist reminding us that our opinions are ours. And if we try to enforce them, then we create a violence. And even these critiques and reviews come from a place where I essentially understand that I am trying to take music and put it in the context of a standard, and I always have to ask myself, is the artist trying to play to a standard? And in many instances, they are. There are artists who go for visions. They want their albums to sell this many units. They want an audience to gravitate to them. So you can review and critique music because it all falls into the dimension of market capital. But then there is also music for music's sake. There's also projects that I could come here and talk about, but I can't really judge them because they're not made for that. The artist had no intention to try and pander to anything that the audience might like or not. So it doesn't matter whether you like the music or not. And André 3000 has the luxury of being in a place so successful that he can do that. And I wish that for every artist. I wish that every artist can make music that has the intention to aim for goals that we can assess in order for them to eventually break out and just do what they like. And maybe that's the next episode. Maybe we also need to talk about that balance. Are we allowing our artists to also just make music that makes them feel good? I don't know. You tell me. Talk to me on the comment section about what you think of this rant I just gave about an artist I respect and the moment that they've given us to consider what consuming music and being consumers is in today's times. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. This is The Headspace, Africa's most poignant culture channel. If you don't know us, where have you been? Please subscribe and peace.